Welcome to Megapath Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk about Fear the Walking Dead, revisiting Season 1. My regular subscribers know that I am moving at the end of the month, so while I was packing over the last few days, I decided to put on Season 1. I like that a little bit better than Season 2. This is the second time, no, about the third time I rewatched. I rewatched it live, and then I rewatched it when I did the reruns for the reviews. And then I rewatched the entire season, listening to the commentary from everybody for the special features. I love the commentaries. A little bit disappointed with Fear's commentaries, though, because they didn't really dive in as deep with, the details of making it, why they did this, the decisions they made, and all this. So that was a tad disappointing. But I decided to revisit it because Season 3 is coming up right around the corner. And I enjoyed Season 1 this time probably twice as much as I did the first time. Now, I know recently I haven't been enjoying Fear the Walking Dead as much, so a lot of people probably remember me just being more negative than positive. But if you go back, even though I highlighted the negative stuff, at the end of the season, well, I was real positive with the premiere because I came up with this stupid analogy that, because everyone said it was going slow, so I came up with this stupid analogy that the excitement is kind of like baseball. It's not when you hit a home run, it's when the ball's in the air, and it's going to be a home run. Is it a home run? It seems like one. I played baseball, and that was the most exciting part. It wasn't when it hit, it was like, okay, that's the moment to cheer, but those few seconds while the ball was in the air, that was where it was exciting. And I felt like the premiere did that. Now, I am about 80–85% loving Season 1 as a zombie show. You go back and watch it, it fits wonderfully well in the zombie genre. Now, I'm not going to say it fits wonderfully in the Walking Dead genre or try to compare them, but if you looked at this as just a zombie TV show, I think it's wonderful. Now, if it's 80%, that other 20%, or if it's 85%, that other 15%, I think that's where we get a little problematic. And if you notice, when Fear the Walking Dead first came out, the working title was Cobalt, and Cobalt ended up being an episode title and also an important part in the plot, which was Cobalt was code for the army to evacuate, or the National Guard, everybody to evacuate and then bomb the city. And I kind of feel like, and this is something I did not notice the first time I watched it, but we all know that in The Walking Dead it's split into two halves for each season. You get the first half and the second half, and ever since Scott Gimple came on as the showrunner, they've been making it a point to make each half kind of feel different, like a refresher on the show. Now, even though the Season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead was only 6 episodes, you get the feeling, now that I rewatch it, that that's kind of what they did. They had this build up with the virus and everyone getting sick and all this, oh, did you get your flu shots? Everyone's afraid to send their kids to school. People are trying to leave the city, go to areas that aren't as populated. That's the first 3 episodes. And then you get the army coming in, the National Guard, they set up the perimeter, and that's the next 3 is within that perimeter and then eventually fleeing in the finale. And this is something I didn't notice, but I kind of feel like this is where a little bit of the disconnect came in, the heavy disconnect, because a lot of fans were expecting to see the downfall, and then you just took the characters and stuck them in this quarantine zone, which, if you remember, we just mentioned before, Cobalt was the working title, which was an important part in the story that took place in the last 3 episodes, or primarily, I think we heard about it in the episode 5 and episode 6, somewhere along the lines of that. So I was thinking, as I was watching this, thinking about all that, well, maybe they came up with the idea for the quarantine zone, and then from that point on, they started building the first 3 episodes. And that could explain it, because if you look back at it, man, if you put in 2 more episodes, maybe 2 more at the very least, I kind of feel like you might have had a perfect season for Fear the Walking Dead. You might have adjusted those percentages enough and even kept a lot of those millions of viewers who just dropped off. I know there was about 10 million who came for the first episode, and I just feel like there's elements missing. There's elements with the characters that are just wonderful, but then there's other elements where you need to add just a little bit of give, like Madison, for example, right? This is a character since day one. They said she has some, bad shit in her background, and she's very stone and cold, but we see her break down. We see her have this emotional moment that even when I was reviewing, over a year or 2 years ago, I said I'd love that moment because we see her break down in the bathroom. She's crying. The actress can finally show emotions, show her range. But they didn't do enough of those moments. Even a character with a background coming from an abusive family or whatever it is, having a husband that killed himself, having a kid that's a junkie, you need to add a little bit more to kind of get a well-balanced character. And I feel like that's where the piece that's missing is the piece that's keeping a lot of fans from connecting to the character. And we see some moments where it just shouldn't be there. Like, for example, she breaks down, perfect example. She breaks down in the bathroom crying, and she disconnects on the phone after hearing some gunshots and explosions with somebody she loves, Travis, right? And he's stuck at the Salazar barbershop. She comes out of the bathroom, and her daughter's like, Ma, what? Ma, what? That should not be in the show. And I think I said that back then as well. That makes her character. You went from this scene where she's emotional and you're finally showing emotion for an actress and a character who's getting slammed by a lot of the fans for being somebody who has one face, one emotional face, and that's it. And I feel like the direction and the character's backstory and trying to keep with that, I think that was a hindrance on the performance. And again, it's not like change it completely. It was missing like a good 5% to kind of, it would have just broke through, I believe. Just that little bit, that little change would have broke through, and it would have connected with the fans a lot better. It connects with me decent because I like the actress and stuff she did before, and I still agree. She's missing that 5 or 10% for us fans to make that connection. And like I said, so she does this scene, and then she just completely ignores her daughter when they could have had something where she said, I at least struggle to get it out, struggle to find the words, because she wants to kind of keep her daughter as innocent as possible, for lack of a better words. But do something besides nothing. I think those moments really hurt the character and the connection. And I liked her character, and I wanted her character to be one of the main characters. And then when she approaches the other, the ex-wife of Travis, and she has that line where she just sounds like an asshole, complete asshole. She's just like, if I get like that, you kill me, because if Travis does it, it'll break me. And later in the finale, they have a scene where the ex-wife, after she's bit, she's like, you need to do it. Travis can't do it, it'll break him. And I felt like if they would have adjusted that, again, that 5% of polish, of switching it up, of developing the character, you have Madison, she's got her brave face on most of the time. Take that 5%, that a little bit of give, right? It's like a tree. In martial arts, they teach you, like the bamboo, it gives, but a sturdy tree, a rigid tree in the wind, heavy wind, it'll just crack because there's no give. Take that little bit of give in the actor's performance. Allow them to have that in that one moment where she says, Travis, instead of saying, don't have Travis do it, with this stone cold bitch mug on, it'll break him. Give that character some of that give and say, Travis, he can't do this, it'll break him. You know what I mean? Switch it up so she doesn't sound like a complete bitch, because now you're overdoing it, I think, character-wise. And again, some of the stuff might seem negative, but we are picking on some of the little bit of negatives that I think, even though I like a lot of the acting, I like a lot of the performances, the makeup-wise, like the very first walker we see, Gloria, I love it. I think that is an awesome walker, a perfect walker to see in a prequel story or in the very beginning. And I would love for them to make some type of thing of this walker. It could be a figure, a statue, just something. I think they could create something really nice for Fear the Walking Dead. I think they should have already released that already, because that's an iconic walker. For some reason, they don't take advantage of the iconic walkers like that. And that's a story for another day, but we have a lot of these moments, let's go back to the acting. So you got a lot of good acting, you got a lot of good moments, and there's still that 10%, 15% where I feel like, even though it's like a 10 or 15%, it hits so hard, it keeps the fan base away, a good chunk of the fan base. And then another good chunk, even though you're getting 5 million watching consistently, there's 2 million that hate it, that go online and they say they hate it. We see it in the comments. It's war. Every time we talk about Fear the Walking Dead, it's war. Half the comments love it and they're bitching at the other half. The other half, they hate it and they're yelling at the other half saying, you only love it because you're a fanboy. The other half is like, you only hate it because it's not The Walking Dead and there's no Daryl. And it is crazy. And I truly feel that that little bit of 10 or 15% that could have made season 1 something incredible, something iconic, classic, better than what it was. And I strongly believe it's missing 2 episodes. You can't, even if you rewrote it and polished it and developed some of the characters a little bit and kind of let some of them relax a little bit and add a little screen time to others or whatever you want to do, I still feel the 6th episode hurt them in the long run. I still feel that should have been 8. They should have done, AMC should have done everything and anything in their power to get it to be an 8 episode first season. Couple things I wrote down just watching a making of. A lot of what was happening, a lot of the important stuff that I feel a lot of fans wanted to see was off screen, or it wasn't mentioned, or it wasn't clear enough. It was ambiguous. And for a story that was promoted, and taunted as the be-all explanation of how the breakdown of society came down. And I know there was confusion with fans thinking we would find out about the virus and how it started. I tried every chance I could to say I don't think they're going to go that direction. I don't think that fits in the world of The Walking Dead, at least not at this point in time. And I said, keep the focus off that. We are going to just watch. It's about society crumbling and these characters dealing with it. We didn't know at that time, but it's the family. So it's about society crumbling and this family, this blended family dealing with it. The evacuations, what happened to the neighborhoods. Again, even after rewatching it, a lot of it just seems like they didn't have the budget or they didn't care to show people being evacuated. There's whole neighborhoods and it just doesn't make any sense, It just does not make any sense. There's some things that really yank the viewer out of the experience, I believe. I think the evacuations, maybe a scene, again, if we had a little bit of one of those missing episodes, if we showed a little peek of that process, some people being evacuated, moved around, where did they go? The one guy said there was 12 quarantine zones. Even in this quarantine zone, it didn't look like there was a hell of a lot of people. It did look like they had a decent chunk of people penned up in that hospital area, so that kind of helped. But I just feel like that little bit that was missing would have done a lot. It would have done a lot to help deal with some of the complaints that the fans had. What else we had? Like, for example, Travis went with the army and he sniped that one walker, yada, yada, yada. That also felt like, oh, it's just one random walker. There should be a good amount here, even though the army's going out and they're clearing it. I don't know. That's a whole lot of area for them to just easily clear out, and they're still getting overrun. They're still losing this battle, even though when people die, you know what I mean? It gets a little frustrating as a viewer dealing with that. Now, I will say, for the breakdown, it didn't seem like a lot, but when you rewatch it, and in this video, if I can get across anything for the fans, and this is for fans who want to discuss and revisit season 1. So if you have no interest, you probably have no interest in this video at all, and I don't blame you. It's just for those fans who would like to revisit it and discuss it. But we see the riot during the day, and this is when I believe the homeless person got shot. Chris was there videotaping it. We see the riot at night when they get stuck inside the barber shop, and this is again where we get a 10-15% would have made it a lot better. It would have went a good way, because we have them separated, and it looks like they put them in there so they can watch society crumble down, but we only got a peek of that. We only got a little taste of that, and then from that point on they had a nice little run. But all in all, even rewatching it, it seemed like, yeah, it was a little bit dangerous, but it was just so easy to get out of there. It just felt so easy for them to get from there back to home, you know? So in a sense, it kind of felt like, okay, we need stuff to play out at home, so let's kind of keep these characters separated. That way we can show some of the breakdown. And a little bit, just a 10-15% added into that story, or maybe add something to where there was more tension in that room at the time to kind of up the drama, up the suspense, up the tension. I think that would have went a long way. At the hospital, we also got a peek of the one nurse telling the doctor, looking at Nick, oh, you know, don't say that or something, because he was talking about them dying and they don't know anything about this, and we got to take the body down to the basement. So we are getting a taste. We're getting a taste all around, little by little, of the downfall of society. And then later, when they're driving after Travis and everyone in that group, everyone in Travis's group flees the barbershop, we get a look at the hospital as some of the cops and I believe some soldiers are shooting some patients who are coming out of the hospital. So we get a good look of the breakdown of society, but I still feel we're just missing that little bit that would have made season 1 incredible. And believe it or not, a little bit could go a long way. You know what I mean? That little bit could have spilled over easily into season 2. Season 2, we might have a revisiting discussion, but season 2 is a little more problematic. That's the one where even though I look back and, like, for example, with Alicia and Chris, when I'm rewatching it and they have the scene where they're in the rich house and they're destroying shit, I think maybe because I know where it goes in season 2 or whatever the case may be, I feel like that is a complete and utter waste of time. For what it adds to the characters and to the scene and to the moment, it adds so little. I truly feel like if they could have removed as much as they could of season 1 of scenes like that, they could have inserted something that would have done a lot better for the story. We don't need to see these kids destroying a rich house. We're here to see the breakdown of society, you know what I mean? And one of the characters, it didn't even affect his story. Chris, it just was worthless that he was in the scene. It did nothing. All it did was irritate fans by having those shipping fans who want to ship everyone together go nuts trying to ship those two until season 2 came and put that to rest. Season 1 also plays a lot better when you watch it, binge watching it, when you watch it Netflix style. When I was packing and watched it back to back, I think I watched 3 episodes back to back and then 3 episodes the next day when I was packing, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. All in a row, enjoyed it a lot, especially now that my expectations are different. My expectations were just to rewatch it, you know. I put down all feelings and thoughts and, you know, the parts I loved, the parts I hated. I just didn't even think about it, and I rewatched it. But when I was watching it live when it first aired, I had all these expectations of what it would be as a Walking Dead show. And I think the expectations did pick at parts I liked. I didn't like it as much. And parts I was unsure of is because of the expectation. I had these certain expectations, and when I found out they were in a city walled up, a quarantine zone, I just couldn't even believe they went in that direction, and they skipped 9 days or something like that. So that really affects how you are enjoying it in the moment because of the expectation. So watching it straight through was a lot better for me. Now I would love to try to watch season 2. Like I said though, season 2 gets problematic with the characters. In season 1, the decisions they made, going back and rewatching them, I've never had a problem with them not knowing what zombies are. I've never had a problem with Travis wanting to show respect to his neighbor, and Madison, even though the scene came out a little bit awkward, Madison approaching Susan, her neighbor, even turning around to get her other neighbor, Patrick. These are people they knew for years. She watched her kids. They've known that couple. They're probably close friends with that couple. I would turn around too to say there's a fucking zombie in your backyard. You know what I mean? It's your wife. If you get too close, it'll kill you. If that was somebody I knew for years and somebody I cared about, I would turn the car around too, even though I was in the middle of getting the hell out of there. I would take a couple of minutes out of my schedule to say, yo, Patrick, chill out. So there's not a lot with the character decisions that I had a problem with. I know that is one thing a lot of fans had a problem with, where Madison was going to the teacher, even though, you know, us fans are like, oh, he's a zombie, we know that, yada, yada, yada. And even the fans who say, it's common sense, look at him, something's wrong with him. In their world, a world where zombies do not exist at all, this is the first, not even in entertainment, she's looking at a person she knows who is standing, walking, mumbling. He looks like he is sick to some degree, some kind of sickness, illness took over him. So she's in a state of confusion and trying to figure this out for herself. So those are all things that I don't have a problem with. The character the character decisions really start to affect me in season 2, and that's because I believe, or at least it feels like when I first watched it, it feels like the decisions were a bit forced based on what direction they wanted the story to go. Like, they wanted the family to separate, and I guess instead of polishing a way where they separate organically, they decided, oh, we're just going to give Nick this thing where he wants to go because of the zombies and how they treat people, and we destroy everything we come in contact with and all that other hoopla, da-da-da. Those are things that I would love to see how I feel when I revisit it, like I revisited season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead. Now, with that being said, I really, really enjoyed season 1 over the past 2 days, sitting down and binge watching the episodes. And I kind of am a little disappointed we didn't get that 15%, whatever that little bit of polish and an extra episode or two. I'm kind of really disappointed we didn't get that, because I really feel like it would have held on a lot of the viewers and sucked them in if we were able to explore a little bit more about the society and how everything worked out. You know, maybe we got a little more with the army guy, and we can see them as they were out in the neighborhoods and see how everything was rounded up or how everything was handled. I don't know, just that little 10% of polish, 10 or 15% of polish, and the 2 added episodes. I think that would have went a long way. Don't forget the 10-15% I keep harping about. That also includes the stuff with the characters, especially Madison's character. I think there was a lot they had going on in the beginning. You know, they made her this just hard, just stone face, you know. They made her a stone face character in the beginning. The very first episode, Travis gets all lovey-dovey, and he's like, you threw up in your mouth a little bit, didn't you? And she's like, yeah, a little bit. Like, that was a nice, fun moment. If they would have just allowed her to step, not out of character a little bit, but lose stone face a little bit, and just get just that 5%, give the fans something to latch onto, because even rewatching it, you only get it, I feel like, better because you know her character and how she's always stone-faced with everything. But later we see her break down in the bathroom, we see her break down a couple of different times, and it would be nice for all the characters pretty much, except for Danny Salazar. Now, there are problems that will not go away. I still think there's some sort of problem with the drug dealer in the first episode. There was just something not right with the chemistry between the 2 actors and how the scene came out. I don't know. It fell off. It definitely fell off. I think that was probably one of the most awkward scenes in that. And then there was also problems with the walkers, even though they're cool in the finale, because the idea is they're going to use the walkers to break into this facility, but that is just madness. I don't know. if there was a way to polish up those and still have everything happen that way, but not make it seem like it was utterly ridiculous how you would break into a facility that you just had this huge, massive stadium full of walkers. You led them to the building you're going to break into. See, some of these problems really affect it, but what they had going on with that episode, I loved a lot of what they had. The guards getting bit, running into the blades, all this other shit, the shit with the mom getting bit, we don't find out till later. Some of these are really powerful scenes that I really enjoy. The dad coming home and finding the dog. There's a lot of moments that I really wish they just had somebody on set that could have been like, okay, I'm Mr. 5%, I'm Mr. 10%, and he can, like, perfect example. They have a powerful moment where Nick is in the hallway with Strand, and they're at that door that won't open, and they just have the mom come over, or the, Travis's ex-wife come over with the card, repeatedly with the card to build up the tension, and I just think it was such a great moment. The card swipe, I think it kills the moment. And that's that 5-10% where someone else comes in and they polish it and say, okay, here we go. The zombies are just coming right up on their ass. They can't get into the door. The son says, close your eyes or don't watch. Like, this is it. This is the end. And Nick is telling his mother, do not watch, because she's looking through the glass, and he doesn't want her to see him get torn apart. So that's his goodbye. That's his farewell. There's no time to say anything else. But then down the hall, all the way down the hall, we see the ex-wife, and she has the card key, and then it's like, oh my god, get over here. So she's running. As she's running, the walkers are getting closer. She's running even faster. As soon as she gets there, the walkers are right there on his ass, and she swipes it once. Just that one little bit, because all that other swiping shit, even though I worked in a facility where you swipe your card and it might not read it the first or second time, but she swipes like 15 times, and it's just like, polish that scene a little bit. Let's flesh out this tension. And they did have great tension in that moment, but I still feel like a little bit of polish. And again, this is something to utilize on a lot of the different scenes, not to just be like, oh, well, Ronnie, that scene was still tension filled. You just wanted a little more tension filled. That doesn't matter. No, take that idea, take that principle of polishing some of the scenes out, adding some of the tension that doesn't make it feel like you're adding artificial tension with the swipe, 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 because a lot of people don't work in buildings or places where they use a swipe card, so they might just be like, oh, that's bullshit. If it works the 5th time, why wouldn't it work the 1st time? And it's like, well, it's because it's worn out, or maybe the strip won't read. So it's just easier to polish that up. Use that philosophy. Take that, 10% guy and add him in for some of the other scenes that they can flesh out, I think the scene with the drug dealer, I don't know the actor. I don't know the actor who played Calvin. So initially part of me was like, okay, it was the actor and him in that scene. He was just not casted right, But there's another part of me that says, you know what, maybe it was the direction. Maybe the direction was like, okay, the audience won't know that you cleaned up the mess or hid the bodies because we saw him cleaning out the car. So he obviously took the bodies out of there. He's the one that sold the drugs. They made that abundantly clear, and he decides he's going to go ahead and kill Nick because something crazy happened, and he doesn't need Nick breaking down and snitching him out because, he sold him some lace shit. So I feel like maybe they did that scene to spoon feed the audience to know that, oh, something's up. Maybe that was the problem, because however, I've watched it a number of times already, that one scene, because I had so many problems with it, and I feel like it could be a combination of the wrong casting in that moment, or just the wrong direction of how that scene should play out, because I think it was too on the nose. It was too, there was just too much there given to us that said, look, something's not right here, da-da-da, if he was a little more caring and he was like, no, come here, listen, I got you. I don't know what you're going through. We will get through this together. You tell me what happened. We'll go and clear your mind. Are you sick? How long it's been since you had something? Oh, it's been a little while. Listen, I got you. Let's go somewhere where no one's at. Me and you, da-da-da-da, do some shit like that. But it just didn't come out right. But that's all I gotta say. I see the clock ticking up here, and this is a discussion that I didn't even know I was gonna make, didn't even know I was gonna have. But I got done watching Fear the Walking Dead Season 1, and I wanted to go back and say, well, not just to rewatch it. If you haven't watched it in a while, or if you have, let me know what you think about rewatching it after we step away from our expectations. But if you haven't, go back and rewatch it and let me know what you think, and put everything down in the comment box. I still really like Fear the Walking Dead Season 1, minus that little percentage that I think is a tad off. And I do feel, believe it or not, I do feel like that 15% could hurt it a bigger chunk than what that 15% is. You know what I mean? And I think that could be the disconnect between the fans and the show. But you guys let me know down in the comment box, what do you think about Fear the Walking Dead Season 1 after you have revisited it after all this time. I think it is great. It needs a little touch-up work. But next we'll be going into Season 2. If I got the time, this was not planned, so if I got the time, I would love to revisit Season 2. It is twice as long, though, so I don't know, and then have a little discussion about it. So, thoughts and opinions in the comment box. I'm done talking. Go revisit Season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead. It's your turn.
Subscribe now.